Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I'm your host, Chris Cosentino. We are here to talk about people that inspire, and all my guests are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm really looking forward to digging deep into how they got to where they are, to the top of their game, how hard they've worked, how much they've given up, and how they're giving back. So without further ado, here's our next guest. Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. And our next guest is Tu David Phu. Welcome, David. You are based in Oakland, correct?
That's right. What's up, everybody?
So we've known each other for many, many years. And I think it's really exciting to be able to have this conversation because we both have gone through the rigmaroles of Top Chef in different forms. What season were you on again, David?
I forgot.
Come on, Juice. Don't give me that.
Season 15. So about, I think 2 years ago, going on to 3.
So you really shook it up. I mean, everybody in the Bay Area was going crazy. You know, everybody was super stoked you were there. Everybody was up in arms when you went home. But you really showed the cuisine that you grew up with and also who you really were and what you were really about, which was like embracing the culture of the cuisine you grew up with and sharing that with the world. And I think that's really, really important. And I think we hear a lot now about understanding where you're from, who you are, and the cuisine that you grew up with. But also, we hear a lot about people absconding with cuisine. What is it? Cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
And we can get into that conversation as well, because I think that's actually
More than happy to. Yeah, man, more than happy to.
I think that's a really, really touchy subject right now, as and I'm sure if anybody would agree that's a little bit hot topic would be you. And we can go through that piece by piece. But what I'd like to do too is kind of let you speak a little bit about your upbringing and how you started getting into the kitchen and what really made you gravitate towards food.
Absolutely, bro. So I'm first generation Vietnamese-American chef. My parents are Vietnamese diaspora, Vietnamese refugees, came over in 75. And I think if just to recall most folks who probably don't know, or if they do know, 75 was the fall of Saigon in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, the Vietnamese-American War. So they landed here in Oakland. I grew up in West Oakland in a food insecure community and food insecure home. So I think unlike most of my chef colleagues, they have these lavish and beautiful stories of like cooking with their grandmother and having amazing Thanksgiving and holiday dinners and all that stuff. I had the opposite, you know. When people think of food memories, you know, they would talk about these amazing meatloafs or turkeys that their parents would cook. You know, I have these memories of my mother bringing home chicken bones, you know, because she got them for free from the butcher. Because back in those days, in the 90s, you could get free chicken bones from the butcher. You didn't buy them. And she would make a simple broth soup with them. We eat it with rice. And I'd say for the most part, in a week, that was our staple diet. That was our staple meal. I think in addition to that, my father being a fishmonger for 30 plus years at Pier 45, he would bring home fish scraps. And I think for many years, all the way up into my adulthood, opposed to embracing what I ate growing up, I had a lot of shame for that, because that type of cuisine, at least on the surface level, I didn't see it being celebrated, you know, cooking with scraps, cooking nose to tail, cooking with things that were throwaway, until I dove deeper into my professional career and I saw chefs like yourself, you know, fucking Chris Cosentino nose to tail, you know what I mean? Like cooking with everything, you know, and, you know, learning more about the Black Southerners, you know, cooking with things that were considered waste at those times, like pork ribs, chicken wings, hush puppies, right? It wasn't until I started to dig deeper. And then I think I had this like really organic, natural pivot to kind of like learn more about my roots and the way we ate. I think in addition to learning more about Jewish diaspora, you know, I wanted to learn more about Vietnamese diaspora. And at the same time, I was learning about African diaspora as well too. So like I wanted to kind of learn what kind of constructed my palate and the things that my mom cooked, not just as a Vietnamese mom, but like as an immigrant, right? So, and I think that took me down this path. And like, I was getting confronted with all these like weird, complicated terms like authentic and traditional and shit like that. And I think, I think that's where I really started to dig into like identity and what my mom cooked. And just for the record, my mom, she doesn't cook traditional Vietnamese food because it's kind of impossible when you are away from your homeland, and it's impossible to cook authentically, quote unquote, or traditionally, quote unquote, um, because you'll be neglecting of all your other experiences as a immigrant woman. And I think that's true for every immigrant person, right? It's like if you're in a refugee camp for 10 years in another country, it's kind of impossible to not have those influences affect the way you cook. So, and I say probably same for you too, chef. Like all of your different experiences. I know your root base is a sort of like tradition and what you were rooted in your childhood in terms of like taste and palate from the way you grew up. But there's other things that you fold into it, right? So,
Yeah, I think it's a really, really important point that you're making right there, because when we talk about food, you hear, how many times have you heard Cal Ital, Cal French,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Right? Or Cal Med. But I think, we're very fortunate to live in California in that we have access to a lot of ingredients that we wouldn't have access to in other parts of the country, right? Especially with a lot of Mediterranean vegetables, but also a lot of Asian vegetables that you could of the traditional flavor profiles that you can get. And one of the things that I found on my first time ever to Vietnam was walking through the markets. You know, the eye-opening experience of that and the herbs that were there, and I would really like, what's this herb? And they were like, sour herb. Okay, what's this herb? Bitter herb. Okay, what's that herb? Sour herb. Well, that one's sour herb. No, that's another sour herb. And I think that was their like, okay, here's this white kid who wants to understand, but they knew I wouldn't understand the language. One, there's a language barrier, but two, they're giving me the flavor profile of what the herb was. And I still to this day can't find, because I took pictures of them all,
Yeah.
I still can't find some of those herbs here.
Yeah.
Like when we started to see rau ram, everybody knows cilantro. We found rau ram. You have shiso. You have all these different herbs here, but there's things that are there that we can't get here.
And you're right. Even like the shallots and the cilantro, the way they grow there in that soil, it's completely different. The way, just like wasabi grown here in California or in Half Moon Bay, it's completely different animal. Even though it could be the same genius, or same genetic strand or whatever it's called, variety that you import straight from Japan. The fact that it's different soil climate here, it's a completely different beast.
Yeah.
So like that flavor profile you're looking for is it's not, it's similar but not quite, right?
And so I think, to your point of what you said earlier, I think it's a really, really important thing. So basically, you're in a region right now of Vietnam called Oakland.
That's right.
Right? So you're influenced by the communities that are around you and the people that are there. Like you said before, there's all these cultural differences that happen when you travel, when you have moved a different place, the ingredients that you can get your hands on. Perfect example is the Italian-American cuisine that is prolific in the US, is an adaptation of traditional Italian cuisine based off the ingredients that were available in the United States at the time and modifications to make them as close to possible.
And I think it's important for people to know this. And I think I got some of this from you too, is that when you're looking at a recipe, you're looking at time and place. A recipe is basically a story about time and place. So what we consider traditional, authentic, there was a time where it wasn't traditional, where it wasn't authentic, and I think that's the thing. I think it's so American for us to, because we're all immigrants here, right? For us to yearn for what we have back home, this sort of nostalgic feeling, this missing, this memory of what we had in our homelands, because now we're immigrated here and sort of semi-assimilated to this culture here. And I feel that when you step outside the borders of the United States, especially when you travel, when people innovate street food, whether it's in Thailand or Hong Kong or South America or Europe, it's not traditional authentic anymore. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. It's all it is. It's good, right? You know, like I feel like that's true for most of the places I visit outside the United States. However, you know, I'm not the migrationology, you know, social media YouTuber guy where he goes everywhere in the world, you know, so that's limited to my experience. But I feel like, I think at the end of the day, just to reiterate, recipes are time and place, but to add to that, I think it's really important for us to understand is that the older the recipe is, the more commonalities and similarities we see from how close knit we are as a human race, human population. I think an example of that would be people, when I say lemongrass, people automatically think Vietnamese, but they forget and they kind of disregard the fact that lemongrass, its DNA is rooted in South Asia and Africa, you know, and in East Africa, they use tons of lemongrass. You know, we completely disregard that. It's the same thing with rice, you know, like if you trace where rice is from and how it's grown, you know, almost every country, almost every continent, people eat rice. Same thing with wheat, right? It's made in a different forms. Like dumpling, you can find some shape or form of a dumpling almost in most countries, if not all, right? Same thing with stews, where it's centered around a fish or a meat or a vegetable as a protein. Like it's so universal. And if we trace those origins back, you know, it goes back to motherland Africa, you know what I mean? Or motherland Middle East, kind of one of the two. And it really reflects on time and place and the sort of human migration in the course of history, you know what I mean? Like, I think for maybe a little bit more specific, what's a modern day recipe that you kind of trace in terms of like migration or even trade? I think Japanese curry. Like people think that's a traditional Japanese thing. It's not. It was brought over by the British through the British Indian trade. And that's only happened in like the past 100 years. And you can really trace back and pinpoint the time that it got into Japan through trade. Stuff like that, right? So.
And that's actually a really great point. There's a great book that was written by Raymond Sokoloff. It's called Why We Eat What We Eat. And it's the history of tomato, chocolate, rice, pasta, and how it navigated black pepper, how it navigated the globe to get to where it is today.
Yeah.
And there's so many things. And, you know, you mentioned lemongrass. Yeah. If you think about such a simple thing as ginger and galangal, yeah. If you look in Florence, and you start to look at the spice trade, ginger and galangal were part of the Italian spice options because of the spice trade. So you can find old dishes with ginger and galangal in them in Italy, which I think is a really interesting part.
Awesome.
You know, so
same thing with tapioca, right? In Asia, tapioca is from Brazil. You know, in tapioca is found all over Asia, not just in boba form, but like as a dough, as a noodle, as a wonton, as a dumpling wrapper, if you will, right? So yeah, same thing, yeah.
It's such an amazing thing. Like, you know, there's that heated debate about fish sauce, right? Who made fish sauce first, right? Was it the Asians or was it the Etruscans, the pre-Romans, right? For garum, yep. Or was there a sharing of information via a trade circuit? Like nobody really knows.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like, I think at the end of the day, it's not about who made it first. It's just, I think we should be more focused on the celebration of innovation with the resources that people had. I think that's all that really matters, because without that, we wouldn't be eating well today. But I have to say, I think it was the Etruscans who made garum first. And I think if you define fish sauce as fermented anchovies in that sort of shape or form, they made it first. But I think in Asia, Vietnam was accredited to like the filtered siphoned pure liquid fish sauce.
You mean the clean stuff without all the chunkies in it?
Yes, without all the chunkies in it. I think Vietnam was the first to make that specific.
I prefer that. I've made garum. I've made squid garum that's black with ink. I mean, we've done it in
Woo.
the past. I mean, I think you had that at the restaurant. We did it at Encanto,
Yeah, it was delicious.
but it was fuerte, right? Remember how strong that was? I mean, it's like we opened the container and everybody's head turned, right? I think there's so many cool crossovers culturally. And I think there's a lot of conversation piece. I mean, when you start to think of, cultural influence across the world and how unfortunately conquering some countries has that have conquered then left have left their food history or pieces of their food culture within that place that was once said conquered and then had been ousted, and it's changed the way and the direction of that culture's food. And I think
Absolutely.
that's a really, really powerful thing to discuss. And I think a lot of people have kind of forgot. Like, for instance, I mean, you and I both have a love of banh mi, which is beyond, right? Right. But think like, what is the one most important medium of that sandwich? Is the bread, right?
Yeah, the bread. Yep. And
And
the pate. And the pate.
and the pate. But
You gotta
those
have the
both
pate.
came from, but they both came from where?
They both came from France, you know?
And I think that's a really like that. So when you hear these folks talk about cultural appropriation, is that cultural appropriation or is that we really like what we did?
Let's dig into that. I'm ready to go. I got my
You know that that's a pretty hot topic right now. And I don't, and I'm not a, you know me, right? Like I love food of the world. I'll eat anything. I'll try anything. I love learning from different cultures. I love learning techniques. I love learning flavor profiles. And I try to stay true to the place of origin of
Absolutely.
those things. So, for instance, and I'll use for example, I love learning Japanese cutting techniques when it comes to fish, but I would use it as a crudo, not as a sashimi or a nigiri. So, to me, that's advancing a skill set, looking at another culture who has elevated a technique or a process above and beyond what I'm accustomed to.
And let me just say this to start off our cultural appropriation talk. I love it and appreciate it when people from outside my own culture cook the food that I've known and cherished and loved all my life, specifically Vietnamese food. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not cultural appropriation. For me, cultural appropriation is when people consciously benefit off of another culture's food. Let's just say food in this regard, without putting respect to it. So, for example, let's say I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I'm not in the food space, right? And I go into North Beach, San Francisco, and I want to make money off of Italian food. And I've never done any research for it, right? And what I do is, I call my place Napoli Cuisine, right? What I do is I go to Whole Foods and buy focaccia. I put pizza sauce and cheese and tomato on it, and then I call it Napoli style. Because that, my friend, is not just bullshit. That's cultural appropriation. And that's what happens, I think, in the Asian food space a lot, where they're using, for example, they'll it's one thing to misrepresent it, but to benefit off it financially, that's appropriating. So like they'll take egg noodles, right? And then they'll put duck in there and they'll call it pho. And it's not pho. Pho always has to be based with rice noodles, and it either could be made with chicken or beef. The moment you put any other protein in it, it's not pho anymore. It qualifies into something else. So I think I want to be very clear what cultural appropriation is. It's a misrepresentation, and it's an exploitation of that misrepresentation, because they're trying to take this very simple idea of what they think they understand something and then make money off of it. It's the same way of so if I had my chef buddy who I worked with and I made pho for him, and he is not of Vietnamese origins and he's selling pho on his menu, I think that's absolutely okay, as long as he follows what the true definition and represent pho for what it truly is. Like Josh Weissman on YouTube, he did his own iteration of pho. I thought it was beautiful, but he accurately represented what pho was, and I celebrate him for that. I think that's the thing. Chefs, people in the food space, they should hold themselves accountable and responsible on how they represent other people, how they represent other people's cultures and cuisines. And when you misrepresent, I think I don't think there's any governing bodies that will like give you a fine or slap you on the hand. If anything, however, with this younger generation, they're really well informed about culture and the accurate representation of things. When you do that and you misrepresent, you really risk going into this space of cancel culture, and it could be fairly detrimental. And it happens to all companies. It happens to Nike. It happens. I mean, it's a mixture of trolls, and it's a mixture of people who really want accurate representation for their culture. But I don't think, for me, once again, just to reiterate, and I'm sorry I'm being long-winded.
No, it's and I think you're making a really, and I'm going to use some two key words here. You want to give appropriate historical credit.
Yes.
And you want to have factual background on a dish. It's okay with you if those two pieces are followed. Yep. But as soon as you start heading off, that's like me. That would be, for instance, if I went and bought wonton wrappers and made ravioli at the restaurant and called it ravioli.
But it's okay to be like, it's one thing to egg people on, but like, this is traditional, and
there's the line component, and
but it's okay if you did that. You're like, you chef, you could be like, we're here in San Francisco. I love Chinatown, and this is my homage to Chinatown. Like, I think that's totally okay, but don't fake the funk. Don't be like, I've been to Vietnam and this is the way we do it. And there's a lot of people on social media who are doing that right now, where they claim their few visits to Vietnam. They're saying this is the accurate representation of what pho is. That's one thing, right? And there's another complex to it. I think identity is an extremely sensitive thing, right? And believe it or not, Chris, people have called me out for being inauthentic or non-traditional or not Vietnamese, because I don't look like your stereotypical Vietnamese person. I'm not. I'm 6'2". I'm 225. I have tons of tattoos. Like I don't look at like your typical in person. I don't look like your typical Vietnamese person. These are other Asian Americans attempting to call me out. And in addition to those complexities, my identity, my family, we are multi-generational free divers. We're from an island. So the food that I put out there, some people in Vietnam, both in Vietnam and here, of Vietnamese origin, they've never seen that food before. So they claim that I'm doing fusion. And that's the other thing. It's like, identity could be a very complex thing, So I think it's a double-edged sword, and there's a fine balance between the two, of a person who's not from that identity trying to create a narrative around there, and there are people within the space who have very niche, very specific identities that don't match the sort of mainstream story of what that identity is. Like, it's similar to Italy. Like, a person from Sicily or Napoli or Tuscany, their dialects are different. They eat completely different. Like, it's not one identity.
Yeah, I mean, you have one pasta shape could have 3, 4, 5 different names. The same sauce is made differently between family to family to family. And, let's be honest, everybody says that their grandma makes it best. And I'm sure it's the same way in Vietnam.
Absolutely the same. Like, when people think that, that when I talk about my family recipes or whatnot, we ate, my parents were pescatarians up until they immigrated here. So the conversation around beef or anything that's beef related didn't come from Vietnam. It's experiences that we had here in the United States. So that's a completely different beast for us.
And was that based on what was available where your family, your parents lived, right? Because you said an island, and I'm sure beef wasn't readily available.
You're right. Beef wasn't available. And, for fish was accessible. So we just go out and fish it, but they didn't have beef. That was a like luxurious thing. And when they came here to the United States, especially in the 70s and 80s, especially with subsidized ranching, right? Beef was a very cheap thing you get at any supermarket. You get like, at those times, you get like, any cut of beef for like $1 or $2 a pound, 99 cents a pound. Same thing with chicken, same thing with pork, right? So that's the thing. And then it was a complete opposite for them. Like seafood then for them became inaccessible because seafood in those decades and now included were extremely expensive. So they had to do this full pivot. And the only way we could get seafood was the scraps that my father brought home as a fishmonger,
That's incredible. So with that growing up and that massive change for your family from having to be, a fish-based diet to then, holy shit, fish is through the ceiling. Your dad's bringing home like belly flaps and tails, I'm sure, right? Collars.
Scallop frill, which is the most underrated shit.
Oh, that's the
ever.
best.
That's the best, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are things that like I love, fish tails, scallop frill. You have all these bits like collars, heads. You make a beautiful
Liver.
People have forgotten that those are regular cuts.
That's right.
Everywhere else in the world, but here.
Yep, that's right.
And we have been the U.S. has very much so been a country of waste. If it's got a head on it, people don't want to look at it. And, collars, like fish collars, luscious and delicious. Fish head stew is by far one of my favorites, right? Like gelatinous and the cheeks, and you have all this deliciousness in there. It's like, I think that it's like that on your palate, right? That like gelatin.
Yeah.
Oh, alginate. How much of that comes from a fish head, but it's craveable, right? And when you're adding this very delicate broth and it's done in, so well, it's magic. And I think some of the best cooking comes out of necessity.
That's right. That's right.
And that was one of the things that I think cucina povera, which is the Italian cuisine of the poor, very much so was based off that. And I think every culture has that version.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. If I could just reference, tarantulas are commonly consumed in Southeast Asia, in particular Cambodia. And it's like the hottest street food craze, like they deep fry tarantulas. You know why? In the 80s, the Khmer Rouge, which was a Nazi-like regime that killed everyone. It was like a genocide sort of situation. When that was happening in the 80s, they completely destroyed the Cambodian infrastructure and agriculture and ranching. So there was no meat, there was no food. So people had to and there was an abundance of tarantulas everywhere. So in the 80s, they pivoted over to eating tarantulas as street food because that's all they had. And that's not a traditional thing. And it's this supposedly it's this amazing thing you got to do when you go to Cambodia is eat fried tarantula. Isn't that crazy?
You know what? I mean, I've eaten a lot of things. I've not had that one. Have you had it yet?
No. My friend's parents had cooked it up, but I couldn't muster up the confidence to try it. But I'm still working on it. So
you start with one of the little legs, right? You a little bit first.
They said it's like crab. I mean, it makes sense. They're very similar species. Like spiders are basically crabs of the land, right?
Wow. I see. That's an interesting dynamic. So, due to war and devastation becomes a food system change, right? Yeah. And it's really interesting to think that you would shift. I mean, it makes sense, right? So you have the devastation of the land, and then tarantulas become your protein form.
Because it just happens to be high protein, right?
I didn't know that. This is what's great about this is you're always constantly learning about foods all over. So have you been back to Vietnam?
Pre-pandemic, yes. I think from 2015 to 2019, I was going back every year. And it's been nice. I just haven't traveled everywhere. I've been mostly in the South, or they call it the Southwest region, Ming Dai, which means Southwest. So that's everything from like Saigon and downward, coastal cities mainly.
And when you travel there, do you speak the language?
Yes, I think I speak it at a 8th grade level.
So what does that feel like when you go there? You can get by, but then they look at you like,
I can order food. I can speak to my elders. I can, make friends. But the moment we get into politics,
you're like, it's over your head. You're like,
it's over my head. I can't get romantic.
You can order coffee. You can order a bowl of noodles. You can get from point A to point B in a car. But
I can tell people how I feel, but once again, it's like because Vietnamese, like the French language, is a very romanticized language, and when you say something, you get very wordy about it for people to understand. It's like, opposed to talking straight up, you talk around it to kind of tell what the situation is. But yeah, it's
so with that, traveling back to Vietnam and then coming back to Oakland, have you seen a change in your food, in the way that you cook, because of going back and tasting things, and it's sparking something that you want to do, and then being influenced by something that you find in Oakland, and kind of just like tying it back in together to present something anew? Or do you try to have that experience and then try to emulate that experience as best as you can for the folks that you want to share that experience with?
I think, just to be fairly honest and transparent, like the pantry that my mother had growing up, we didn't always have the best Vietnamese ingredients, mainly because those resources weren't available. There wasn't like a high-end red boat or a high-end sunfish sauce in our pantry, because it just wasn't around. And it wasn't until recently where we get those high quality products. So the stuff that we use was squid fish sauce or 3 crab fish sauce, which is, just to be very honest, I'm putting this out there, those are inferior brands that are owned by Asian food conglomerates. And I would compare it to, it's just a low quality product. The bottle itself costs more than the product.
It's kind of sad. That's and that happens culturally everywhere, right? Let's be honest. Everywhere. It's not just that. So for instance, we have a lot of fake olive oils out there. We have fake maple syrup, which is not really maple syrup. So it happens everywhere. But I think this is, specifically to the cuisine that you're cooking, which is traditional, or, with all those flavor profiles that you're looking at to get from Vietnam, you can't achieve those without having a higher quality product. Because that was the one thing that I noticed that was above and beyond for us when we went. Tatiana and I were there, and it was constantly, the flavors were so bold. The chilies were vibrant, but not so hot. The balance, the use of palm sugar, the peppercorns were super, super tropical and vibrant. They weren't just about the punch. I mean, the difference between fresh dried peppercorns and ones that have been sitting in your pantry for God knows how long.
Like dust.
Holy cow. Like, you would have a dish and the peppercorns were in there, and then having the green fresh peppercorns, right? Like,
for sure.
So different. And then to try to emulate that flavor profile here, I totally was like, oh man, I want to have that again. I can't do that. There's no way I can do that.
Absolutely. And I just found that in traveling back, especially in my youth, my adolescence with my parents, we would bring a bunch of ingredients back. And the stuff that they cooked with, those ingredients that they brought back, it was always very simple cuisine. It was very, I think, what's the word for it? It was dishes that was very, what's the opposite of acidic?
Bright? Did you mean it was like bright flavor?
Not bright, alkaline.
Oh, okay.
So I felt like a lot of the foods that my parents cooked was very alkaline. It wasn't heavily seasoned. And if and then if there were ingredients from Vietnam in there was just like a few drops of fish sauce, a few, a few cracks of like the peppercorns that we would bring back, and like it would just open everything up. And that's the type of food that I ate growing up, mainly because my parents had a heavy preference and bias for seafood. And in cooking those sort of ways, like especially like the fish porridge that my parents would make or my mom would make, you would get like this natural sweetness from fish. And growing up, I associated fish and seafood to be sweet. When my friends, the kids grow up to it, every time they think or they would talk about fish, they're like, ew, it's fishy and blah, blah, blah. I never got that connection. I never understood why people I still don't understand why people think seafood has a fishy taste to it. If you get it incredibly fresh and you cook it the right way, it should be sweet. It's bright, it's fresh, so like it's very interesting, like, when I went to, and that's the sort of palette that I was kind of constructed around in terms of what my mom kind of taught me to cook with, and my dad as well, and what I tasted. So when I went to culinary school, there's these polar opposites. Not that it was right or wrong, it's like you cook very alkaline, we use lots of bitter, spice can come in many different forms, not just black pepper, stuff like that. And not to say it's good or bad, it's just a completely different spectrum. So going to culinary school and working in French and Italian places, it really opened my eyes on what more food can be. And then in addition to that, to loop it back around to like Vietnamese ingredients, whatnot, it really helped me, I think, get a brand new, fresh perspective on how to cook. But I'm still learning. I'm always a student. I'm never a master.
Well, I mean, and then I think that's what's the best part about this industry, and being in culinary and hospitality, we're forever learning how to build and layer flavors and have things like palate explosions is like what I like to say, like really just getting it to circle the whole palate, getting all those flavor profiles. And my first boss used to say, make the food round so it completes your palate in every bite. And I think that was a really, really powerful message as a young cook, that you want the flavors to be round. You want salty, bitter, sour, sweet, pungent, umami. You want all those things to hit off, and that's round.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that those are not easy to attain. And simplicity, it's a lot easier to attain than keep on adding shit in to cover up your mistakes.
Absolutely. I love that, because that means we're saying that we put flavors together to complement and not conflict with each other. And that's a really hard thing to do. Like, you really have to know your study of food in your pantry, of like, if you're adding this in, it's only going to be complementary to it, and it's not going to make it saltier or sweeter or whatever it is, right? So,
well, I think that's really, when you talk about utilizing ingredients, and I think, the go-to in this country is salt, right? That's the go-to. Now, there's many different ways to get salt into a dish.
Yeah.
Right? So you can use salted anchovies. You can save the salt from your salted anchovies. You can use fish sauce. There's a million different ways to hit that. Horseradish makes things taste salty, right? Gives that
celery.
Celery. There's all this, it's such an interesting thought process, because when you look to other cultures, like for instance, salt was highly taxed. It was very few and far between. So they had to find other ways to give that depth without physically adding salt itself. And I think that's what's really interesting when we start to look at food in a broader spectrum and learn to embrace, I always like to say acid and herbs before salt. And I think that really, really goes a long way.
Absolutely.
That's, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that's why I've always gravitated towards, Southeast Asian, Vietnam, for the brightness, herbs. I mean, there's nothing like sitting down and getting a pile of herbs.
Yeah.
Right. And just start, okay, what does it taste like with this one? What does it taste like with that one?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think those sort of that's sort of like a flavor palette realm. I think it's rooted in us, and as an infant or as a baby in our mother's wombs. You know what I mean? I think it's those classic flavor profiles, like sour, I think brightness, I think earthiness as well. I think those are the two first flavor profiles that we get from a mother through placenta, you know. And I think there's something there where I feel like I think it's universal for, I think, any child or any person when they taste sour, it hits some sort of nostalgia for them, right? I don't think there's any cuisine in the world that doesn't use earthy or some sort of acid, right? I'm pretty sure all cuisines, all cultures in the world, right?
You have to. I
Yeah,
mean, whether
yeah,
it's white vinegar, citrus,
yeah.
even you think about it, wine,
Milk, yogurt, right?
yogurt,
Yeah,
it's endless when you
yeah,
start to think about it.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to talk about your experience on Top Chef because a lot of people always ask, I'm sure you've been asked, but there's a camaraderie that happens on that show that people don't realize how long lasting that is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what they see is the moments of duress. They see the moments of intensity
Yeah.
that are not glorified, but I think exemplified by the fact that you have a short timeline. They've thrown you a couple curveballs, and let's be frank, shit isn't going always the way it's supposed to. But that's the restaurant industry. That's hospitality. That's always cooking, right? So I would love it if you would give, a little bit about what that experience was like for you. Did you have fun? Did I know you're still in contact with all that crew, and
Absolutely.
it's such a really, I think, a long lasting and important part of what people, see, but also it's going to be a long lasting part of you.
Absolutely. I think it's not just my immediate staff, but the whole network of other Top Chef alumnus has been extremely warm and welcoming. And once I got checked into that, I got checked into this bigger, larger, big, huge family, if you will. I think, let me say this first. Top Chef changed my life. Top Chef for me was a world stage. I think at the time I was doing pop-ups, and there was an opportunity and there was an interest for me to go on this world stage and kind of tell my story, and that I would be forever humbled. So just understanding that fact, going on to this show where they gave me opportunity to cook, have fun. We traveled, and they put us up in nice homes. They gave us a refrigerator fully sponsored and Whole Foods. Like, I'm a kid from West Oakland, grew up in a food insecure home. Like I never thought those opportunities would be possible for me. So for me, all across the board, the opportunity was a blessing, and I had a blast, and I do it again in a heartbeat. And I think for some people on the show, they were too caught up in their own heads. And this is across all seasons. And I just want to address the mental health in this, where they took the competition too literal, in a sense where they pressured themselves to be the best. I was just there to show excellence, just like any other great kitchen that you were working. It's not about who's the best cook. It's not about who's the best sous chef or whatever. At the end of the day, you have a sense of camaraderie to work with your fellow teammates to execute a great service. And that was the mentality that I had going into Top Chef. Regardless if I won or lost, I really gave a shit if I won or lost. And I had this sort of like Rocky Apollo mentality, where it's like, if I'm going to go up against you, I want to fight you. I want to compete with you at your best. And whoever wins, may the best man or woman win that competition. May the best chef win the competition. And there were, of course, just like any other sport, there's like frustration, like you miss a shot, you're like, fuck, kind of everything in between. But I had a blast. It was one of the best experiences in my lifetime. I encourage my chef colleague, any other young chef, veteran chef, whoever sees opportunity in it, to kind of engage and participate in the show, because it is a life-changing opportunity where you get to stand in front of a world stage and kind of tell your story. And I see, and since then, the power of narrative has really changed my career, my trajectory of what I do in the food space. FYI, at this moment right now, I have a film that I co-executive produced that's airing nationally on PBS. It's called Bloodline. If you go to chef2.com, you'll be able to watch it. It's free on YouTube. Please like it. Please support it. Please share it. It's about my family. And in addition to that, I'm working on a few other scripts, and I'm working on a book. So that's the thing. It's like, it changed my life. And, if you want to get onto Top Chef, it'll change yours as well too.
I mean, and I think that's a really, really great message, because I think the opportunity's there, and I think it's, you made the most of it. You did. And I knew you prior. I saw you on. I've known you after. I mean, we've known each other for years.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I think for me, watching you, it was you. There was never a facade. There was never a fake moment. It was you being you. And that's what I loved. I was like, Tatiana and I were watching it just going, shit, go, dude, go, come on. But it wasn't an air of arrogance. It wasn't an air of confidence. It was just, you were you. It was an air of two. That was it. And you were who you are. And I think you made a really good point that there are a lot of folks who go on there with the wrong thought process. But who am I to judge? I mean, everybody has a reason for being.
I mean, you destroyed the Masters. Let's talk about you real quick. I just want to.
No. This isn't about me. This is not about me. This is about you. This is about you. No, done.
But I have to say, I just want to say this because I'm always a big fan. You're like a leader in this industry, and I look up to you. I just want to say this, like, I think that's one of the reasons why you did so well, because you went in there and you came in there you weren't trying to be the best of anything. You surrounded, and you had this thought process about excellence in every aspect. Excellent person, excellent friend, excellent chef, kind of excellent human being. There's help that needs to be helped, you would help out. That's sort of the same thought that I had too. It's like, fuck everything else. Just be a solid person. Just be happy, have fun, do your thing, and everything else will come. And I had a bunch of chef buddies who worked for you as well too. And the reasons why I love them so much is because they preach the sort of same message that you kind of put out there, not with them, but to the universe. It's like, just be excellent, let everything else be. It's the world, and it's not about being number one. The world's just about is about contributing, right? I know Top Chef is a show and all, but fuck it. Just be on there, have a good time, cook. That's what we do.
I think there's something to be said for remembering why we started doing this.
Yes.
And I think it's really hard, let's be honest, it's really hard right now to think about that, right? We have the world's still upside down. We have a pandemic. We've had massive restaurant closures. We have staff shortages. I mean, there's definitely, we have climate change, and we're seeing the difference in the cost of goods. We're seeing the difference in soil and in the ocean. So it really gives you that sense of anxiety, but we have to remember that we got into this because we make people smile.
Yes. Amen. A fucking men, brother.
We got into
and it's not about the accolades. Yeah.
No. And I think, look, accolades everybody wants them. Everybody likes to win. Everybody likes to be recognized. And, I'm just as guilty for having those desires and wants, right? Like nobody doesn't want to be recognized for what they do. But I think the most important part is, like, are your guests returning? Are they leaving with a smile? Are they coming in without a smile, then leaving with a smile? It means you change their day. Taste memories are powerful. And that's what we're giving. We're giving taste memories. Hopefully they're always the good ones, right? Like everybody has bad taste memories, but our moment is to make people smile. And as a young man, I felt fortunate to watch Julia Childs and watch Jacques Pepin, and they inspired me to want to cook. And to this day, that's what I do. Yes, I may go ride my bike a lot, but I still cook. I still love cooking. I love seeing people smile, and that creative moment of when the flavors come together in your head, and you think, is this going to work? And then you put it on the plate and you're like, it's a little off, but how can, like, that's what makes it fun. And like you said earlier, we're forever learning. We're never masters of our craft.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And the moment you say you're a master of the craft is the moment you need to quit, because you're truly not a master. Right? I mean, that's arrogance, because there's forever somebody better or has done it before you or is going to do it quicker than you. And or learn a new technique. Like to me, it's I mean, I'm surrounded by books in this room because I'm always trying to learn and better understand why things work the way they do, why flavors work. And I think that's why I'm always trying to have these conversations with people like yourself too, because I'm learning every time.
Absolutely. And it's not about, you're so right. It's not about quickness. If I've learned anything cooking with matriarchs, I've gotten my ass smoked by so many fucking Vietnamese moms. And, like put me in my humble, oh, you worked Michelin? You can't do this fucking rice crepe? What? I thought you were like, I've got put into my place with fucking rice crepes with a South Asian mom from Chennai making fucking dosa. You know what I mean? Like,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Because you know why? I went to culinary school after high school, but they've been fucking doing this shit ever since they're 5-6 years old probably with no cutting board cutting out of their hand.
Oh, does that freak you out? That freaked me out when I was there. The first time, cutting in their hand. So the first time I ever saw that was when I staged in Italy, in Florence, at a place called La Pentola dell'Oro. And the woman was cutting the carrots like this. She has a carrot in her hand, and she's pulling the knife. So what do? I'm like, they don't have cutting boards. What am I supposed to do? So I do it, and my knife is sharp. Like I sharpened everything before I went. I was like, I'm staging in Europe. And what I do, I gouge myself. Like they didn't even have Band-Aids because they never cut themselves because they're so. And of course, I'm like, wow, look at me. I'm the who came to stage, and now I look like the fool. Then we're in Vietnam, and I'm watching them cut vegetables and meat in their hand on the side of the road, like, and I'm just like, I'm an idiot. Like I know nothing.
Right. See, it's not about, and that's the thing. You can't replace experience, man. But at the same time, endure it. Endure your process, right? Enjoy the journey, right?
It was so amazing seeing, like, getting a meal in a plastic bag, a broth, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And I'm like,
it's convenient.
And I'm looking, I saw this, okay, the best ever. We're staying in a hotel. I look out the window, and we're in one hotel for 3 nights. I look out the window, and every day a motorcycle shows up, they set up shop, and they're cooking outside, and everybody's stopping. So I look at Tatiana, I was like, I'm going out there tomorrow morning. Okay. So I go out, I get a bunch, and I come back in, I'm like, I've got food, and it's literally in a plastic bag. And I'm like, you think we can get a bowl from the hotel? Not eat it. I felt like an idiot, but it was incredibly delicious and fresh. I had the broth in a bag, and I had all the herbs and the noodles in another. I had the herbs in a smaller bag, and then the noodles in another. I was like, it was Bumbo Hue. I had Bumbo Hue.
BBH.
Oh, it was so good. But like seeing that and understanding like the process and watching them make it, everything right there, like I'd never seen anything like it.
It's all about perspective, and it's all about different experiences. And yeah, man, like I'm glad I didn't come into the space arrogant. Even if I did, cooking Vietnamese food, like those aunties, those matriarchs humbled me like in a quick second,
It is humbling. I think that's actually a really, really great word to use, because going to culinary school, you're taught a certain way, and you're taught this is how it has to be. It doesn't always have to be that way. And there's a reason why those people have succeeded in what they're doing for generations. And it's not just like, okay, I'm the mom who's done it. Her mom did it, and then her great grandma did it, and it's passed down generationally. And I think that to me is just spectacular.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just unreal.
It is. And like to be able to absorb a piece of that to add it to your own repertoire. You know what I mean? Like, I think just to kind of give our audience an understanding of how it benefits chefs like us. So like cooking with a matriarch, when she says sour, when we went to culinary school, we associate sour with what? Like apple cider vinegar, lemon, right? But working with a matriarch, when she says sour or it needs more sour, that could be macroot lime leaf. or it could be tamarind,
Tamarind.
right? Or it could be lime, or it could come from a ferment, of some sort. You know what I mean? Like a pickled vegetable or something like that. Kind of everything else in between. It could be like fermented tofu, So
That stuff's too much for me. I can't do
it
that
is.
one. For 14 days, it's too strong. It's that burning sensation I get on my palate. It's like almost what's the word?
I'll say it openly. For me, it's rancid at 14 days, bro.
It is.
Like,
It's just gnarly.
it's too much. Yeah, it's
Too much. It burns, like, right? It not only it's ammoniated. That's the word I'm looking for. That ammoniated burn on your palate is
Yeah.
way too strong for me. I'm like, somebody's like, "Oh, this is 14 days," and I'm like, "Oh, no, less." And they're like, "Okay." I think I'm like crazy, but they're like, "This is when it's perfect." I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, not for me. No, I just like a little bit less."
And I think it's different ways for you to apply it. So like some people, they ferment the tofu and they'll do it with beer to kind of mellow it out a little, and they spike it with some chili. So like in Vietnam, in Southwest Vietnam, they'll do like it's called chow. It's like a fermented tofu, but I think they do it for a 7-day process with beer, and they spike it with a chili, and it comes out a little bit sweeter. And then they'll smear it like on duck as you're not eating it. They use it as a marinade. It's like a sauce additive.
Well, that's interesting because the beer, you'd have the maltiness, which would give it the sweetness.
Sweetness, yep.
And then you have the natural sugars in the beer, and then the chili. And then I love the idea of using it as a marinade.
So they'll smear it on duck. The favorite way, I don't like eating it straight up, but the favorite way that I've cooked with it is my cousins, my little fucking nephews. They'll get the fermented tofu, and then they'll smear it on scallops, and they'll cook it on open fire. And then that tofu, it changes once it caramelizes. I think the salt dissipates or something happens where it caramelizes, where it turns into a completely different character profile. And it's like this super savory, sort of like it starts to taste more like miso sort of flavor.
Wow.
And when you cook it, so that's my favorite way of cooking, using it as a marinade with duck, and you don't need much because it's so pungent, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with scallop, just a little bit on scallop, and you cook that, you fire roast that shit, you grill it.
I wonder, you know what I'm thinking might be kind of cool?
What's that?
I think that would be rad blended with chicken liver for banh mi spread.
Oh, I'm taking that one. I'm gonna borrow that, bro. I'm gonna borrow that, man.
Right though, don't you think?
Yeah,
like I keep thinking
absolutely.
about because I love a spicy liver spread.
For sure.
But the ferment, then you wouldn't need to add your acid to it because it would have the natural fermentation.
Yeah.
And the tofu would actually give it some lightness.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And then the lactic acid, it naturally makes like a buttery sensation on your palate. You know what I mean? It makes your mouth water, that sort of stuff. So
and I think it would really help. Well, because of the fermentation, it would help preserve the liver and hold better. You could do it with, do it with chicken fat, like that schmaltz, and just really, oh yeah.
And like scallions with that too, and like, oh man.
Sandwich time.
Yeah, next pop up. Chris Cosentino too.
Okay, so I've taken a lot of your time today, and I really appreciate it. So we're going to do a game. I have a straightforward questions, no answers wrong. It's a rapid fire. Okay. All right.
I'm just here so that I don't get fined by the NFL. I'm just kidding.
Ready to go?
Self-bench response.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Pasta, noodles.
Wait, it's whatever comes to mind.
Whatever one you want, whichever one you like more. Doesn't matter.
In Vietnam, there's we call pasta nui, and that triggers a memory for me. My mom would pan sear pork chops that have been marinating in oyster sauce, and she'd take the pork chop out, and there's this beautiful caramelized pan dripping, and she'll fucking throw pasta shells in that, and then we'll eat that. That was our version of fucking pasta.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Fucking pan dripping pasta, like caramelized, buttery. Okay, sorry.
No, all good. That's awesome. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Iced or hot?
Hot.
Espresso, cappuccino?
A cappuccino with a shot of espresso. An extra shot of espresso.
Chocolate fruit.
Chocolate or fruit, you said?
Yeah.
That's a hard one. Chocolate covered strawberries.
You're a cheater. That's the first time anyone said that.
Both, bro.
Pork or fish? I mean, excuse me, pork or beef?
Fuck, bro. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But no answer's wrong. It's just, and I think that's the thing, because there's definitely preferences. Like, what do you see yourself?
Pork.
Okay. Lobster or shrimp?
Shrimp. I can't stand lobster. You want to hear the story real quick?
Sure.
My father is a fishmonger, and then at the end of every year, they would clean out their freezer at the fish company that he worked at. And in the freezer were always a fuck ton of like year-long frozen lobster, which is
I can already see this.
Don't even get me started, right? And then there's this Asian thing. There's this like extreme Asian thing where when they don't know how to cook something of their, an ingredient of the origin of where the country is from, in particular, my dad's from Vietnam, he would overcook the fuck out of the lobster, bro. Like he would steam it for like an hour, like, yeah, bro. So like I grew up eating like overcooked lobster, and it always make my stomach turn. And when I went to culinary school, like 18 years old, and cooking lobster for the first time, it blew my mind that you blanch lobster for like a minute or two. You know what I mean? Like it fucking blew my mind compared to my dad steaming it for an hour.
You were like, man, I was like eating my Air Jordans, the soul, when I ate one.
And not just that, but I don't know if people know, but when you overcook lobster, there's this smell that sort of permeates. And the water eventually turns green. Yeah, it's pretty gross, bro. So for me, I can still eat lobster. I can still cook lobster. It's just not my favorite thing because of those scarred memories. It's fucked up, I know.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
Right. So shout out to Pops. I don't mean to put my Pops out there like that, but it's
That's all good. I think he'll get it. He'll totally get it.
It's a truth. It's a truth.
Okay. Dungeness crab, soft shell crab.
Dungeness crab, for sure.
It's pretty magic, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's a local thing. It's something that I think as a Californian we appreciate, because we could go to like anywhere off the peninsula and like find a fucking Dungeness crab walking around like the size of your fucking palm or arm, right? So
yeah,
I love Dungeness crab. Yeah,
for sure. All right, favorite guilty pleasure. Don't hide that shit, dude. Don't be all like, oh, once in a while I maybe have a.
I love shitty ass hot dogs, bro. I love like the Costco $1.50 hot dog, and you get a free soda with it. I can't fucking. That's my guilty pleasure, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and like my homie's like, that's so fucking disgusting. Like, don't you want like a really good high end? I was like, no, man, it's not shitty enough. It's got to be like soft, shitty, soggy bun. A fucking. What is it? Their Polish link that's been sitting in the steamer for like 2 hours, or if not all day.
Really? That answers the next one. I think I was going to say burger or hot dog.
Hot dog, straight up, bro. I can eat hot dog. What's that?
Ketchup or mustard?
Mustard. Spicy mustard.
Spicy mustard. Yeah. The next one I was going to ask you was Dijon or deli.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yes.
Any words of advice for all those folks out there who are wanting to get into the industry, really wanting to, learn to cook? Is there any advice that you can give to them?
If there's any advice at all, I think it's pretty universal. If you want to be excellent at anything, you have to study the fuck out of it. You have to understand it in all its different angles, whatever you're interested in, whether it's plumbing, acting, or drawing, or basketball. I'm a Malcolm Gladwell guy. 10 Outliers, you got to read it. There's a sort of theory around 10,000 hours. It's sort of an explanation and story around if you want to be excellent at something, you have to put in 10,000 hours before you are considered excellent or a master of your craft. And then he goes into this explanation about not being the best, but being good enough. Once you're good enough in a space, then, and you keep investing your time, everything sort of permeates, and kind of strive towards not strive, but then you can consider yourself an expert in that space and kind of like thrive off of those things that you're interested in. So Outliers, read it. 10,000 hours, and that's in everything that you do. You know, if you want to be a great chef, put in 10,000 hours. You want to be a great news reporter, put in 10,000 hours. So,
all right. So if people want to follow you on Instagram, they should reach you at
Chef Tu David Phu, CHEFTUDAVIDPHU. We'll spell it out.
And again, your documentary that you just did.
Yes, it's called Bloodline. It's airing on PBS nationally. Check your PBS local station to see listing times. If not, just go on YouTube and go to KQED Food or KQED Arts and then look up Bloodline. You should see it.
Awesome. Dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and excitement, and it's great to see you. It's been a while since I've been able to see you during this world that we've been living in.
Good vibes, my brother.
I look forward to sitting down and having a nice bowl of noodles with you very soon. So.
Absolutely, man. Let's make it a pho date, bro.
I'll take you to my spot down the street. I got a really fun spot I like to go to in the city. Unless, no, actually, you know what? I want you to take me to a spot. I'm sure I'm going to find, learn something new from you. So
let's do it, bro. Let's do it. Anytime.
All right. Well, we're going to sign off. Thank you very much for joining. Make sure if you like this podcast, you follow, check out Bloodline, and subscribe to our podcast. Thank you.